name is Angie Morenga. You're watching Just Angie, where we have the most amazing conversations. I love our conversations. They make me happy. I watch them. They inspire me. I'm just amazed at how people are living life and living it fully and the journeys they have been through. So the woman I'm about to introduce, I love her greatly. I've been with her for a journey. I don't know. Usually they remember all the years. Me, I don't remember. I just know it's been a long time. I know that even you were single when I was hanging out with you. Now you're even married. Single. This is you are very single now, married. I remember even going to Israel. But before we start our long stories, please look into this camera. By the way, Karibu Sana Jem.
Thank you.
Look into this camera. Introduce yourself to our guests, and then we'll have the conversation.
All right. As Apostle Angie has said, my name is Jemimah Baariu Otieno. And I am a marketing professional. I'm also a professional certified coach. Recently married, about almost 2 years now.
Almost, wow.
Yeah. I love the Lord, and I am so happy to be here today.
I'm so grateful that you're here as well. Really happy. Actually, I was thinking, hey, I've been in touch with you as a single woman. Now you're a married woman, but you're a marketing professional.
I am.
And you're really good at marketing. And you're here to talk about the skills that you've learned as you've navigated different places and spaces in the marketplace. But I've watched your marketing because you've served on a few events. Yes, you have. And I remember once when we were in Israel, you asked me about a billboard. Was it a billboard or something? I was like, Jem, God is going to do what he needs to do.
Amen.
And he did, didn't he? By the time we came back, we had a billboard.
So
you see, God is really at work. So I've watched you. I've watched you apply your marketing gift to serve this ministry and to serve me. And that's been absolutely amazing as well.
Wow, it's been such an honor. I have learned so much. Just being part of this process.
Amen.
It's been many years actually. And
I can't remember how many there are. There are
I
many.
think 2015 or 2014.
Really? Is that when did you do PLF?
2014 September.
Really?
Yeah. I did 2 PLF, Mom. You remember?
Okay, I know 15 and 16.
15 and 16. Yeah, so September all the way into March.
Of
2014,
going to 15. So we've known each other for at least 9 years now.
Maybe more than 9. Is it?
It's 9.
9.
It's about 9,
5?
yeah.
Yeah, 9.
It's about 9,
yeah.
which is good. I'm really grateful. Okay, tell us about your, whatever you want to tell us, but skill. What have you discovered? How many places have you worked? Why did you become a marketer?
Hey, okay, wow, that's interesting. Interestingly, even as this week, and it's interesting how different thoughts go through your mind. This week I was just reflecting on how many places I've worked. I think I've worked at 5 places.
Okay.
And been a volunteer at 1. So I don't know whether that's work.
It still counts, yes.
But yeah, I began my career as a volunteer for an organization called ISEC.
Okay.
Yeah, youth organization, the student organization. So I began my career there, and because of all the skills I learned, I don't leave it out.
Yes, I think that there must be a lot of skills.
Yeah, I did. I learned how to fundraise.
Really?
I learned how to present myself. I learned all those things. And actually, it's there where my marketing career began. Because my dad is an accountant, was an accountant,
yes.
And so I thought I would be an accountant.
Oh, really? That was your aspiration?
That was my aspiration. I even did ACCA during university.
Yeah.
And then I joined this volunteer organization called ISEC. And in that process, we used to be asked to serve. Very similar to PLF, we used to be asked to serve. So as part of that process, you have to apply.
To serve.
To serve, imagine. Good. So it's not automatic.
I think I should introduce applications.
For serving.
Yeah.
And so, we were asked to apply. So I applied for the finance position at the time.
Really?
And I was rejected. Imagine.
I
was rejected. And I was in my third year of campus. Imagine I was rejected.
Why?
And then it was so interesting. The president at that time
of ISEC.
Of ISEC in USIU, because I was in USIU, so it was a university thing. So she said to me, I think you should apply for the marketing position.
Really?
Yes. And then the one thing I told my dad, you know how you go to university and you don't know what you want? So I told him, I don't know what I'm not sure what my elective will be, but I'm sure it's not going to be marketing.
What?
And then God has such a sense of humor.
He has a sense of humor. He just sits in heaven.
Imagine, he just and all the things I've ever said, I would never do. Those are the things.
These you've done.
So she says, you know, I do think you can be a marketer. So because I wanted to be in the organization and I wanted to serve,
you said, let me do marketing.
I said, maybe this lady has seen something, let me do the marketing. So I took up the position of marketing and I joined.
And that's when you were accepted.
And that's when I was accepted for this thing that I was like, what? First I thought marketing is such a shallow. Imagine.
And the way it's
and the way you're stressed.
It's so deep.
Yeah.
And it's the engine. I always find like marketing drives the engine of an organization. It's funny, even for my years in the corporate world, the first place people would cut budgets is marketing. I'd always be there fighting because you know, even me, I'm a marketer. I'd be like, excuse me, you need us.
I hope the
you
finance
cannot
people are
put
watching.
off the engine. We are driving this whole conversation.
And even you are a marketer.
I am a marketer. That's what I'm saying. All the fights I used to have about why is it that you're first cutting the marketing, you can't do that. This is the engine, but it takes a long time. I liked working with a leader once who a GM who understood finance and marketing. Because if you work with a GM or a leader who's very finance, oh my God, there was, and you know me that time, I could fight. I can't fight. Oh God, I can't. I could fight, make my case known, you know. Yeah, and had a passion for it.
So that's how my marketing career began. So I began, so part of that process was we used to fundraise resources for the organization.
Because it's a student organization.
So we didn't have money. And so I began proposal writing, those things that you do. And I loved it.
Wow.
And the wonderful thing about marketing is no day is the same.
That's the thing.
Every single day.
No day is the same.
Every
day is different.
Every day is different. Wow. You're solving a different problem. And so I you know, maybe the first thing to say is that I think God does align us, because I feel like I would be so sad if I was in finance. Sorry, finance people, but I'd be so sad if I was an accountant.
What? With all your colorful...
Imagine. I would be so sad.
You'd be so bored and so
I feel
sad.
like that was God.
That was God.
Like, this child.
He just said, move this way.
We move. So anyway, that's how my marketing career began. And after that, I've been in marketing all through. And then after that, I think I went abroad, still part of the volunteer experience, did marketing. Yeah.
Still part of ISEC?
Still part of ISEC.
What do you mean you went abroad
just
like
we
that?
Used to have, lose
that loosely.
We used to, for real, we used to have these regional offices. So we had our international office in the Netherlands.
Has regional offices?
Yes, would you believe it?
Wow.
Yeah.
So you went to the Netherlands?
So I was in the regional Africa office, which was in Egypt. So I lived there for a year.
No.
So part of that...
Courtesy of... Courtesy of ISEC.
Courtesy of ISEC. So we're just fundraising for... So everything was just... you go see corporates in the region, fundraise for conferences.
No wonder you're such a good fundraiser. You know you're a good fundraiser.
Hi.
I think, are you the first one who brought me billboards?
I did.
You were the one. You're the one. You're good. There's a way you're good at convincing people. That must have come from... Jem used to go and say, you know, some people, I'm going to be on billboards. They thought I was joking. Watcha, they were, she's on the billboards. But anyway.
Yes.
So worked there for a year.
Then I came back home. Then I thought, with all this wonderful experience, of course I'm going to get a job. Hey?
Oh, no.
See, I struggled to get for a job. Okay, let me not say I struggled, but it took time. Longer than I thought. So where I had done my internship, my boss at the time, who I will always be grateful for, said, instead of sitting at home, so just come work with us.
And volunteer here
volunteer. So
you've been volunteering for long.
Imagine. No, but it was at least around had a salary. So I worked there. And he'd allow me, imagine, to go for interviews.
Wow.
So I would tell you, okay,
I like
for
I really do. I like people who are forward thinking, who want people to develop, because that's a good person.
That's amazing.
That's a good person. He's giving you something to do. He's giving you some money, and he's saying go for interviews.
And he's saying go.
How amazing is that?
Would you believe it?
Such people need accommodation.
Yeah, they do. They do. But I would say I thank God for the bosses. I've had amazing bosses. And so after that, I was lucky enough to work at Cadbury.
Really?
Yeah, which was
when they had a factory here.
When they had a
factory because they moved it, didn't they?
Yes.
Or they closed it.
Yes.
Okay.
So that was my first. I would say after this internship and this event company, I then went to Cadbury, and I remember during that time thinking I wanted to go into banking, marketing banking.
Okay.
And then I went to see one of my mentors at the time, and he used to work in the finance space, and he said to me, finance organizations are not very good at training marketers.
Okay.
So I would recommend you start at an FMCG, and then
if
you eventually,
just 1 minute.
Yeah. Yeah, so he said to me, I recommend you start at an FMCG because they're the best trainers of marketers. And then eventually, if you do want to go into banking, which was amazing advice.
That's such good advice. So you had mentors as early as that. What made you have a mentor? Because here we're inspiring people and want them to get skills on how to live their lives. What made you have a mentor?
Mentors.
At that early age, because this is like your first job.
Yeah. I don't know whether it's because I was an only child. You know, I think I grew up as an only child for quite a bit of time. So I was constantly seeking growth opportunities, people who would advise me, things like that. And actually, throughout my career, I have found a lot of people who've opened doors for me have been my mentors.
They've been your mentors.
I've enjoyed that mentor relationship because I've seen the value of having a mentor.
How do you identify a good mentor?
So first, mentors are interesting because many people, I've had many people say that they go for events. And I'm sure that happens to you as well. Where you go for an event, people say, "Oh, can you please be my mentor?"
And that doesn't work.
And that doesn't work.
I look at them, I have to be polite.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's not going to work.
So most of the time, people think that, you know, people have all this time and...
I don't have time.
Yeah, there's no time. So you have to, as a mentee, you have to work hard to make time to meet this mentor, etc. So sometimes that means calling people, you know, over and over again, if you've identified that this is somebody who you feel like you can learn from. So for me, how I've identified good mentors are people I aspire to be like.
Okay.
So people who share my values, people who are where I want to go.
Where you want to be.
Where I want to be. Either they've been there or they're already
in the
there.
process,
in
or
the
they're
process
already
of
there.
that, yeah. So I have had mentors in the marketing space, but also in the leadership space, even in the family space. So I find that, and also people who have time for you. So
who have time for
you. And time could be even babysitting. I remember one of my mentor, like the only time I could meet them was babysitting their children. So yeah, so I would say people who can make time for you and people who are honest and authentic. So people will tell you the truth. But I think ultimately people who do share the values that you value.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I like that mentor. He told you it's better you go to FMCG.
So he told me, and I think that was the last time I even saw him. Yeah, and
interesting.
But that thing, I mean, shaped the rest of my career.
Yeah, it shaped the rest of you.
And so I was intentional about looking for FMCG opportunities, and I was lucky enough to work at Cadbury. And so I worked there for 2.5 years. And then we were going now through that transition.
Yes, where they were stopping the factory.
There was a transition that was happening at the time, and I remember at that time even my bosses were leaving. And so I started thinking about the next opportunity. And so the next opportunity was also in that FMCG space. And I moved there as a promotion. So here I was doing, I was an assistant brand manager, and then I moved to being a brand manager. And I always remember that period of my life with such fondness because the budget we were managing at that time was so modest.
For this new place?
Compared
to what you were used to?
Yeah, compared to what I was used to. But I remember that place produces some of the best marketers. But it's because you learn to be so creative. You learn to be, I mean, you stretch. And then those guys were pouring into us. So we had an amazing leader at that time who was a CEO. And I remember, like, if you have an idea and you think it's going to work and you share the idea, come share the idea. So I think part of my leadership journey began at that point because we learned how to be creative, we learned how to stretch, we became accountable, all of us had to learn P&Ls. It was such an interesting, but I remember that period fondly. And I stayed there for another 2.5 years. And then again, the time came to move. And I remember now when I was moving to the new job I was moving to at that time, it was one of those headhunters. I even thought it was a hoax.
You thought the headhunter was hoaxing
Yeah, because I'd never been headhunted. So, and where they wanted us to meet was in Lavington. Some house that didn't even have an address. He didn't even have a sign. He didn't even have.
No way.
So
would be lasting. Did you tell people where you were going?
So I did. So I told at that time I used to have this taxi person. So I told him, ningoje hapa.
If I don't
come out. It was such a weird experience.
And because I've never been headhunted, so do they call you? Do they tell you who they are, or they just tell you they want to meet you?
So they reach out to you on LinkedIn. So it was a South African organization. So they reached out to me on LinkedIn, and then they said, this is the role we are recruiting for, etc., etc. Let's meet at this place, etc., etc. So I showed up. Yeah, and that began my next 9 years of that organization. Wow. Yeah.
What do you think you've learned in all these different places?
So I think each of the organizations I've worked for has had different things. So when I was in this organization where I spent the most amount of time, 9 years, I remember again another mentor. I remember feeling, because 9 years is a long time, and especially for marketers. Marketers have this thing where they do 2 years, 3 years.
3 years.
And I remember this marketer, actually a marketer I met in this space. She told me, a rolling stone gathers no moss.
Wow.
And she said that a lot of the marketers in the market right now, because of the movement, you find people have very big titles, but there's no substance.
Wow, I love that.
Yeah. So she was
titles,
like,
no
big
substance.
titles, no substance.
Wow.
Because I think most of us, when we were trying to move, part of it is you're looking for more money, and those things you're told that you can't earn more money in the same organization. You can't. Titles change when you change jobs. So I think it's always that. You're always trying to go for the next. You want, and then you're seeing your friends are growing, Nini. And I remember talking to her, but I think it was also a good moment because I tried to apply for jobs.
I know, and I remember none
we
came.
prayed for jobs.
I remember.
And none came.
I remember. You should have told me that she has said about substance.
She
should
did.
have told me that one now first. Then I know.
And then imagine.
We just give up on the prayer. Just let's stay.
Yeah.
But the substance is important because what I like about that is that we have to stay sometimes in a place long enough to know about it and not to be running to the next thing.
Absolutely. And I do think that, and one of the things actually I've learned in hindsight is a lot of us do think very highly of ourselves, sadly, and the truth is we are not as wonderful as we think we are. Yeah, and often so we. You even look at your boss, you're like, hey, please, I can do this job.
I can do this
job.
You can't.
I can do this job.
Let me tell you, there are aspects of that job that you don't have. And I think also some responsibilities.
Yeah.
You go home, you sleep. This
you
guy.
You do. Actually, it's true.
He has to carry everything on his shoulder. The weight on his shoulders is a lot.
And I think that's the thing they don't tell you.
They don't tell you.
They don't tell you.
But you think I got this. But you think
you got this. And I think the wonderful thing maybe about the PLF, because at that time, just being submitted to God and stuff, I think it doesn't allow you to make those mistakes. So he says, this thing can destroy you. And we are told those things often. I can move you. And
it will destroy you.
And it will destroy you. And I remember so many places that I applied during that period. And you get to that last interview, and so many of those organizations have either since closed,
imagine,
or COVID happened. All those things.
See God saving us, and we don't want to be saved.
Yeah. So I think the other thing maybe is trusting God's process.
Yeah. And trusting His timing.
Yeah. And that thing where Job was being told, curse God and die.
Yeah.
You can feel like that in your career, where you feel like, God, why are you not moving me? Everyone else is moving. Everyone else is, So for me, I think in that season, that was my biggest highlight. It was that there's something that God is preparing. I remember Dr. Tekla telling me, I remember there's a time guys were getting prophetic words, and mine was, clean the net. I was like, Kaki, we are going to clean for how long?
Not even that. Me, I got one called grow. I'm like, it's not fair.
Yeah, grow.
Just got to stop, because everyone is getting words that are for firing, of where they are going. Mine was grow.
Grow.
I was like, GROW. Yours was clean the nets.
Mine was clean the nets.
But look at it.
And that was like year 6 of my year 9, because I wish I knew.
I can't believe it. Oh my God.
It was clean the nets. I was like, guy. Anyway, but now in hindsight, and when God was ready, He was ready, and yeah, and so I moved. So, but part of even just being in that organization was the freedom to really build something. So even by the time I was leaving, I was proud of what we had been able to achieve, because I can look and say, this is what I've been able to do in this period of time. And so, yeah, and now I'm in the organization I'm in now, and I'm enjoying it a lot.
Wow. I know you're enjoying it a lot.
I am.
Yeah, like that. So clean the nets is another lesson.
Yeah.
Clean the net, build substance. Have mentors. Anything else?
The serving, I don't know whether I can't emphasize the serving, because in PLF, that's the one thing I got at PLF. I think it's the serving. It's even who you meet in the serving. Yeah. I remember the being here and seeing leaders who are amazing leaders in the industry and in the marketplace. Again, seeing them serve at such an amazing level.
I know. Some I have a picture of them mopping. It's just that Ambaru has the picture. Just give her a piece of tissue, please.
Sorry.
Break it out there. No, just bring the tissue.
Oh, God. Thank you. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Don't worry about it.
Where do you want me to start?
I'm seeing the people. Is that what you said? Seeing?
Yeah. So I think one of the amazing things about being in this space is being surrounded by other marketplace leaders and watching them serve.
Yeah.
And I think I think that's also a very important lesson in this career journey, is that some of the best opportunities come in the serving and in the learning and observing, because in that serving moment, I learned to do things. I met leaders who first in normal lives I would never meet.
Yep.
I was able to observe and learn from seeing them doing their thing. But also, I think humility is a big part of growth.
It's a very big part.
Yeah, that you learn that some of the ways that God accelerates everyone, every Joseph, David, all these guys had to serve and had to learn. And it's interesting that this week, one of the devotions we were going through was talking about how when David was anointed, like Saul went through this problem, and then David came to play the harp. And that was the first time he was in the palace. Like God put him in the palace where now he had a front row seat. And the person who was writing the devotional was saying, David had the opportunity to also see the mistakes that Saul was making.
Saul was making.
Yeah,
yes,
so part of that serving is that you get to have a front seat to learning the good things from the leaders, but also seeing the mistakes.
The mistakes they made.
I cannot overemphasize whether it's, I don't know, in whatever organization you think, even if you're not a Christian, there are so many organizations, whether it's your Rotaries, etc., you can serve there and you get an opportunity to do so. But even better, I think, when you're submitted to God and you allow God to position you.
And
you know,
as you're speaking that, I'm thinking there's so many people who you wouldn't have thought that was an opportunity. You see, people think, I know who's going to serve. That's where you met so many people. Even at your wedding, I saw them serving. I saw them doing things there. That's where you met people who are able to give you mentorship ideas. So you see, sometimes something that doesn't look very, I don't know how to say, good on the outside is where your opportunity is.
It is.
And I believe, now that you said that, I've just thought about that's why people miss opportunities, because they don't come packaged the way they want.
Absolutely. It doesn't, opportunities don't scream, and I've heard you say this multiple times. They don't scream opportunity. And those are some of the most defining.
Yep.
Yeah.
Most defining.
And I would say for me, if I look back at all the things that are they called defining moments?
Yes.
They've all been, they did not look like they were big, but they were. They were. Yeah, they were.
I think that's very important. And then I think we had something very unique where we got to serve with very I think very seasoned leaders. I mean, who are really the motley crew. People from all walks of life. Even you don't know how it's happened. Even now, I'm thinking about it as you talk about it. You, in the moment, you don't even, you're not even thinking about it. We just got to get X, Y, Z done and people come and serve. But I think it's something that's important because people were serving with their gifts, the gifts they use, like you are a marketer. In the marketplace, you come and serve here because this is a ministry. That was so powerful. So they learned their skills. And I'm always saying, so you can lend your skills to ministries, to churches. You know, you've got to do that because you don't know who you're going to meet there. You don't know who you're going to meet there. Like you're saying, as you're serving, who you're going to connect with. I think it's important.
And there's a fear of the Lord, I think, in ministry. Because sometimes there's an honor that you have in the place where you're serving God. And I think there's a verse that says, you know, serve God as if, wherever you're working, do it as if you're working for God and not for man. And sometimes, even when you show up at work, the reason you're showing up excellently, it's not really because you fear your boss. I think sometimes it's also that fear of God. And I think even in serving that ministry, you know, the excellence and the I don't know, that reverence for God, and it allows you to give in a way that you might not do if it was only money that was motivating you, you know. So I think this, knowing that I'm doing it, because I mean, especially when you don't believe in something or in your space, you're in a space where the money is not making sense, or you don't like your team members, or you don't, you know, the only thing that makes you maybe show up, because I think, and I know you talked about purposefully living. I think sometimes the only thing that makes you show up is that reverence for God. And I think that's important. I think it's important to always remember it's not just about there's a bigger reason why we are doing this thing, and I think it makes a difference.
It does. And I even as you're thinking, I'm reflecting on so many things, but I've enjoyed also that part of seeing different people come together and serve, I mean, and do something and execute something. It opens up their eyes, and then it's always amazing how this always happens. Like I'll give somebody a role, like I'll say you're going to be the MC, and they look at me like, eh? I've never been an MC. So I've always felt like serving unlocks your potential. It unlocks something. It unlocks either in the same area or it launches you into something else. I have so much evidence of that it's amazing.
And I think that's also serving under the right leader, because the right leader will see potential in you that you don't see in yourself. And I've seen those people you're saying, those ones who you've said MC. In fact, I remember one Unstuck, and you asked one of us to MC, and I remember she did a fantastic job. And I remember thinking, wow, like she would never have done it in her normal life. But it's because you saw something in her that unlocked. And so, for the right leader has the ability to see potential and call it out. And so you can continue living an average life if you don't allow people to call those things out. So and it's uncomfortable, because I'm sure that person was very uncomfortable. They had to go maybe research, they had to go, but as part of that process of saying yes,
so much comes out.
And
you know, like even me, when I send people messages, they always like, is this message for me? I'm like, yes. It is for you. And then, you know, just then keep quiet. Then they have to draw themselves out. I mean, I've given people a platform to preach. Let me tell you, we are standing on our chair. Like, who is this? And what do you mean? And where did you get that inspiration? And the creativity that comes out in, and me, I'm like, wow. Let people be. Like, because people have a lot in them that they have not expressed.
But I also think, I think you have such a unique gift, because you know, in the past, do you remember when leaders in the past used to curtail the potential of their members? Of people, and they would hide information, and they would hide. So not everybody has that experience where leaders challenge them and call them to be more. So I think if you're lucky enough to have a leader who says, next week preach the sermon, or next week, you know, go represent me here, I think that's such a wonderful gift. So maybe not all leaders do it, but I think if you're lucky enough to get the right leader, because I've seen the people who you're like, hey, this person can Wow.
Yeah. It's amazing when you give people opportunity what they come up with.
It is.
Yeah.
But if some people say no, I think the ones who say yes.
Me, I don't know who has said no. I don't think anyone. Maybe it's the fact of the grace of, but nobody has actually said no. I have to think about it, you know. Or people even who come and tell me, I've never even planned a party, and you've given me an event and 4 people, and you said go do this, and they do it. I think it's good preparation and it's good training. I find that sometimes, like in our space, it's a safe place to do it.
It is. And even, you know, when we talk about experience, you know how we always say, when you finish university, for example, when will I get experience? But that's tangible experience.
That's tangible
You can
experience.
actually go and say, I organized an event.
Yeah.
70 people came.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah, it allows you to grow skills that you might not ordinarily do if you just sit at home and wait for opportunities to find you.
Yeah. And then I think also, but I want you to, the balance also is, I think that time you had time. You see, in these 9 years, when I don't know how many years you served, maybe 6. You guys, I think, were the people who did 6. Like 6.
Yes.
So you had the time to do it. So I think that's also important. Like when you have the time to do it, because it's going to come a season when you don't have the time to do it. Now you're a married woman. If you can do it now and then get it done with. So I like that. I like that. Any other lesson that you've learned?
I think just that it's a learning process. In this season, actually, I'm going through a learning curve. It's a new season of new learnings and constantly challenged. I think every day I go home and just say, "Guy, what am I doing?" But every challenge, I think, is an opportunity to move to the next level. I think that's what I'd say.
Definitely.
I think every challenge is an opportunity to move to the next level. You never really, I don't know that there's no one who ever arrives ever. And so invest in yourself. So I remember this week, there's a particular challenge I've been going through at work. And so now I started listening to podcasts. I started listening to YouTube videos.
Just 1 minute, sorry. Today the cars on this road. Okay, you started listening?
Yeah, so I started listening to podcasts, YouTube videos.
Around the problem.
Wow. And the things and my mom always tells me, if I was born in your generation, because everything is on social.
Everything you can't find.
You Google how to tie my hair, everything.
Do you know, I'm so crazy. There's a light that came on in my car.
Yeah.
In the engine.
Yeah.
I love you guys. Are you guys Gen Z?
No, I'm not.
They just came, they took, I was so shocked. And I was so disturbed. You know, because when a light comes on in your car, you're like, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
Shock on me. I couldn't believe it. They came, took a picture, researched quickly, 3 minutes,
Voila.
I had my answer.
Imagine.
I'm looking at them like this. Who thinks of that? Because my mind cannot think. Go to the search engine and check and find the problem.
And I'm sure there was, when you put there, right, red light in.
They had the picture.
Even YouTube video.
Even YouTube video.
Imagine. So these days, everything is online.
Yeah. So I'm so happy you went to look.
Yeah, so I went. So this whole week, when I'm doing my thing, when I'm on the way to work, whatever, I just write my specific problem and I listen.
Wow.
And now this week I'm like, okay. So just this week I started a journal, just
amazing,
documenting all the things I'm learning in regards to that. So
wow.
There's so much information online. So even if you don't have mentors or you don't have money to go to school, online. There's so much information online. Wow. But don't stop. I think never get so comfortable that you're not constantly learning.
And then I love that. That's reminded me that all the resources we need, they are there.
They're there.
They are podcasts, they are conversations. Another podcast, another conversation. All over the world, people are tackling things that you can learn.
Yeah.
Oh, that's
and
so
they're
powerful.
So accessible now.
That's amazing.
And these days Wi-Fi is like...
I know, but you see, that's a good thing because you didn't sit there and say my problem and wallow in our problem. What am I going to do? This is the challenge. I like that you found that solution. So even me, it's a reminder to go back and to see, because there's no topic under the sun that there's no information out there about it.
And there are multiple... okay, maybe that's not a good thing, but these days everyone is an expert. So
it is.
I feel like now I can start a YouTube channel
on marketing.
Yeah,
you can.
Yeah, so
you can.
lots of varied information on so many problems.
Yeah. I like that. That's really nice, Jim. Wow, I love that. I love that even that's where we've ended. That you're going through a challenge, and what you did is went and looked at podcasts and videos, and you're learning. And now you're journaling. And then it's going to be important to see where that shows up, because it's going to show up. I can assure you, God does not waste opportunities. That story is coming. It's coming somewhere. And you'll be like, oh my God, this is where I was preparing for this season. I'm so grateful that you've come to Just Angie.
I'm so happy to be here.
Really, really grateful. And I'm sure we'll have you back. I'm always telling people that we'll be back, but we shall be back.
I am so happy to be here.
What else that you have to offer us.
Yeah, I've enjoyed this, and such a great opportunity.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
God bless you. Bye, guys. I hope you've learned a lot. I have.